All right, let's talk about one of the most critical and honestly one of the most misunderstood roles in the entire Agile world, the Scrum Master. I mean, what do they actually do? Are they a manager, some kind of facilitator, or just a team assistant? We're going to cut right through all that noise and get to the heart of what a truly great Scrum Master is all about.
Okay, so first things first. Before we can really build up what a Scrum Master is, we've got to tear down what they are not. So much of the confusion and frankly the ineffectiveness we see with this role comes from a handful of myths that just refuse to die. So let's bust them.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the myth, the Scrum Master as a manager who assigns tasks, or maybe an admin who just schedules meetings. This is, unfortunately, how so many companies new to Agile see the role. But the reality? Well, the reality is so much more powerful. A real Scrum Master is a coach, a leader, someone who's all about empowering the team, not telling them what to do.
Yeah, let's be absolutely crystal clear on this one. A Scrum Master is not a project manager with a new title. It's not a disguise. They don't assign tasks, they don't track your hours, they don't dictate how you solve problems. That whole command and control way of thinking is the exact opposite of the Agile principles they're there to protect.
And they're not the team's admin either. Look, if your Scrum Master's main job is scheduling meetings and taking notes, you're missing the point entirely. The role is strategic, not secretarial. It's a huge waste of their potential value. And one last myth to bust, they are not, I repeat, not the product owner's assistant. This is a partnership. They're peers. The Scrum Master and the product owner should be working together, even challenging each other, all to maximize value. Think of it like this. The PO focuses on what to build, and the Scrum Master focuses on how the team can build it effectively. It's a balance, a crucial one, not a chain of command.
All right, so with the myths out of the way, let's start building up the real picture. What is the actual fundamental purpose of a Scrum Master? What makes them this guardian of value and team performance?
So here it is, the core purpose. And I want you to focus on that word accountable. They're accountable for making Scrum actually work, and they do it by championing three key things. First, empiricism, which is just a fancy way of saying we make decisions based on what we can see and measure, not on hunches. Second, flow, making sure there's a smooth, fast path for an idea to become something valuable for the customer. And third, continuous improvement. That's about building a culture where the team is always looking for ways to get a little bit better every single day. So what does that accountability look like day to day? Well, it starts with the Scrum team itself. Their number one job is to boost the team's effectiveness. This means coaching them to manage their own work, to be cross-functional, and to really truly own their process from start to finish. They also coach the product owner, right? Acting as a sounding board, a sparring partner, helping them nail down the product backlog and manage all those stakeholder conversations. And finally, and this is so important, they serve the entire organization. This is where they become what I like to call a blocker bulldozer. They're out there removing those frustrating impediments, the ones that are usually way outside the team's control. And that's where their influence really starts to grow beyond just the team. Okay, that's the theory, that's the what, but what does this actually look like on a Tuesday morning? I mean, what does a Scrum Master really do all day long? Well, a great Scrum Master's day is this really dynamic mix. A huge part of it is just observing. They're like a doctor, constantly checking the team's pulse, diagnosing what might be slowing them down. And then they act. They're facilitating flow, helping the team stay laser-focused on their goal. They're knocking down those impediments we talked about. They're shielding the team from all the outside noise and distractions. And woven through all of that, of course, is running really effective Scrum events and doing that critical one-on-one coaching to help people level up. And let's talk about those Scrum events for a second, because this is key. For a great Scrum Master, these are not just meetings you have to sit through. No way. They are chances to create real value. So in sprint planning, they're making sure the goal is crystal clear. During the daily Scrum, they're coaching the team to talk to each other and solve problems, not just give a boring status report. In the sprint review, it's all about transparency with stakeholders. And in the retrospective, that's where they create that safe space for the team to be honest and find ways to actually improve. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've been talking a lot about the team, but the impact of a world-class Scrum Master goes way beyond that. At their very core, they are an agent of change. I want you to really let that sink in. The Scrum Master role is not a team-level role. It is an organizational change agent. That one idea, if you really get it, it completely changes the game. It reframes the entire scope and importance of what this person is really there to do. So, what does being a change agent actually look like? Well, it means they're coaching stakeholders. They're educating managers about what being agile really means, beyond the buzzwords. They're looking at the systems the teams are forced to work in and finding ways to improve them. They're tackling those tough cultural bottlenecks, and they are actively trying to tear down those invisible walls between departments, the silos that just absolutely kill flow and teamwork. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. We know what a Scrum Master is supposed to do, but what's the difference between a good one and a great one? What are those skills that take them from just going through the motions to being truly world-class? A truly world-class Scrum Master has mastered coaching and facilitation. They don't run from conflict, they know how to turn it into a productive conversation. They think in systems, seeing how the whole organization fits together, not just their little piece of it. They lead by earning respect and trust, not by having a fancy title. That's servant leadership in action. And maybe the most important skill of all, they are masters at creating psychological safety. They build an environment where it's okay to speak up, it's okay to experiment, and it's okay to fail on the path to getting better. And of course, here's the flip side, the common traps, the anti-patterns you have to avoid. And what's tricky is that a lot of these start from a good place. Like solving every problem for the team feels helpful, right? But all it does is make them dependent on you. Focusing only on your team is another big trap, because you start ignoring that the biggest, ugliest problems are usually out there in the rest of the organization. But maybe the sneakiest anti-pattern of all is choosing comfort over improvement. A great Scrum Master knows that real growth is uncomfortable, and they're not afraid to gently push the team into that space where the magic happens. So, if we boil it all down, what's the ultimate definition? Here it is. A world-class Scrum Master is a coach, a facilitator, and a change leader who builds high-performing teams by embedding an empirical, value-driven way of working into the DNA of the entire organization. And that leaves us with one final, crucial question for you to think about. Take a hard look at your team, at your organization. Is your Scrum Master acting as a true coach and a change leader, or are they just a task manager? Think about it, because the answer to that question reveals pretty much everything you need to know.